So I'm Claire Jacobson, and as you know very well, Dave, I've been working this quarter with you on an independent study focusing on a back brace for scoliosis and redesigning this back brace based on the user experience with it. So an overview of my presentation today. I'm going to start off with a brief introduction to adolescent idiopathic scoliosis so that you know what that is in case you're watching and haven't heard of it before. And I will be referring to it as AIS for short. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Boston brace specifically after I introduce that. Then we're going to meet Anna, our core user that I worked with on this project. And then I'm going to show a little bit of the brainstorm and flare of ideas I did at the beginning of the project, and then move on to prototyping and how I selected which ideas I would go with for my final prototype. And then lastly, I will be showing you the final prototype and then closing remarks at the end. So to start off, what is adolescent idiopathic scoliosis? This is the most common form of scoliosis. It appears in children ages 10 to 18, and it occurs in 4 of every 100 adolescents. So it's 4% of our population that has adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, and not all of those have to receive treatment, because if it is less than a 10-degree angle of curvature, then it likely goes away when you're growing. So just to explain scoliosis, particularly this type of scoliosis, a little bit better, I have some images to show what it looks like when an individual has AIS. So it normally is a curvature in the thoracic part of the spine, and the curvature can be so dramatic that it creates an S shape, or it might just be a one hump on one side. And in general, there are different types of treatment that people get for AIS. So I set up a little bit of information about how it's diagnosed and what forms of treatment there are out there. And essentially, when an individual goes in to see the doctor and notices maybe their height is different on each side, or they're having back pain, the doctor will do the Cobb angle test. So the individual will bend over, and the doctor will find the 2 vertebrae that are most angled and calculate the Cobb angle using the perpendicular lines from those 2 vertebrae. And in this project, I was specifically looking at the types of treatment for individuals that have a 20 to 40 degree Cobb angle, because these are the individuals that typically wear braces to correct their scoliosis. And I started off the project just wanting to learn a little bit more about what this brace was doing and what types of braces there are, because Anna, my core user, uses the Boston brace, but there are also other braces you can see here, like the Charleston, the Wilmington, and then the most recent one that has come out is called the Spine Core brace, and that incorporates a little more flexibility, and it's a little less rigid than the more traditional braces. But like it says here, individuals can wear this brace 18 plus hours a day. Anna actually wears hers 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. And some individuals, if they're wearing the Wilmington brace, that's a nighttime brace, so they only wear it when they sleep. And it basically depends on your diagnosis and what your degree of angle is in your back. So let's just jump in and meet our core user, because that's who I was working, basically targeting in this project and trying to design for. So I started with an interview with Anna and her mom, Kristen. And Anna is a 13-year-old with AIS. She really likes choir, listening to podcasts in her free time, and I was really surprised. She thinks very practically for an 8th grader. When I asked her at the beginning of the project, I was trying to see what were the major issues that she had with her brace. Was she embarrassed by it at school? And did she have trouble with sports? Anything like that I would typically think, because I didn't wear a brace growing up, but I thought maybe those would be problems that she would experience. But no, Anna told me when she first got her brace, she decided to ask her teacher in her classroom if she could actually go up in front of the class, in front of all the students, and tell them that she was wearing this brace for her scoliosis so that people wouldn't come up to her and ask her repeatedly. So she wasn't really shy about it. She just wanted to be practical and let everyone know what she was wearing so she wouldn't have to re-explain multiple times. And then in addition to this sense of practicality that I got from Anna, I asked her a little bit about personalization of the brace to see if maybe making the brace something that she had played a role in designing would make her more compelled to wear it and happy to be wearing it. But really, Anna told me she just wants a brace that's white, you can't see under her clothes, and that's comfortable. So essentially, those were the things that I focused on in this project. The main issues Anna had with her brace were making it easier to adjust, which was one thing she complained about because she normally has to get help adjusting it and putting the straps on. She also told me that she has a lot of clothes with holes in them, and that has happened because the screws in her brace and the Velcro have snagged a lot of her clothes and torn holes in them. And then finally, Anna and Kristen played a role in this last one here. Kristen said that at nighttime when Anna has to readjust her brace, it's very loud. The Velcro makes a lot of noise and it wakes up the whole house. So it's not only helping Anna, but it's also helping her family, who is all supporting her through this treatment of scoliosis. So with those ideas, I started my brainstorming, and I really like logbooking, so I am going to show you a few pages eventually of my logbook, but first of all, to just say how I was approaching the problem. These were the goals that Anna had mentioned and I was deciding to focus on because she really prioritized comfort and practicality in wearing her brace. So the main problems that I targeted that you can kind of see here, I've disassembled the old brace, but here's the old piece of Velcro, and it used to have a screw right in here. The screws are now on the new version of the brace, but the screws were tearing into her clothes. The Velcro was also tearing into her clothes, and the Velcro, as you can hear, makes a very loud noise. So I thought initially we can change the brace or we can change her clothes. So one idea I had right off the bat when I was flaring was the sense of maybe cutting holes into clothes that would accurately fit the dimensions of the brace so that the straps would not be in contact with any of the cloth. But then I decided to focus on changing the brace because Anna has to wear this brace for one more year, and if there's anything I could do to improve her last year wearing the brace, I thought that would probably be a more valuable solution than designing one shirt that maybe she would like, maybe she wouldn't like. So, as I said, I was going to show you a few of my logbook pages in this presentation, and initially when I decided to choose changing the brace, as you can see right here, I thought about maybe changing the Velcro mechanism, and I experimented with some ideas on that regard, which you can see here. I thought about using different types of tape that could replace the Velcro and be maybe reusable tape options, and I also thought about using snaps. I thought about using similar versions to what people tie shoes with. So there were some products I looked at. I think this one was called Do Hangles, and it's a new type of plastic band that you can fasten tennis shoes with. So I experimented with those ideas, but then ultimately returning to this idea of Anna's desire to have comfort and have a brace in this next year that she can use, I decided to prioritize the solutions that would be fastest to implement so that she could really change her brace potentially if she chooses and get some value out of the work I've done this quarter in her last year of wearing the brace. So ultimately I decided to keep the Velcro, and all these ideas I had other ones here as well. You can see different ways that the Velcro can be protected and changed so it's not going to tear the clothes. So here there's a picture of a wall or some sort of structure that the Velcro sticks up against so that there won't be the excess tag that is hanging off. And here you can see I had ideas of plush around the Velcro to kind of protect the clothes, and then here just changing the shapes of the Velcro. So moving forward, I started prototyping with different materials. And you can see here, I did several iterations. I have a few more that aren't pictured that I brought with me. This one was magnets before I decided to keep with the Velcro idea. And then once I decided on using Velcro, I experimented with different methods and decided ultimately changing the shape didn't really give enough contact area in certain circumstances, so I decided to stay with the rectangle shape. But I started coming up with ideas for how to protect the clothes using this rectangle shape. And two of those main ideas that I decided to implement in the final prototype was making sure there was a border of fabric around the Velcro, and the Velcro didn't go all the way up to the end like it did in the original, and then also ensuring that I could stick the end tab of the fabric into a pocket that you'll see in the later designs pictured here. And this one's hard to see, but there's a pocket right there that the end tab fits very nicely into so that the Velcro stays put. And then here, there are a few more pictures. You can just see I was working, had all of my tools out, and personally I enjoyed the experience of trying all these things by hand because you never know what's going to work best until you try it out. The next part of my project was focusing on this idea of the noise of the Velcro. So I looked into this recent technology, and Velcro has been working on it for the military and police and hunters for mostly the application of creating these pockets to store weaponry or guns in, and then in this context you don't want to be very loud if you're hunting or on some sort of police run. So essentially, I was looking into this product and contacted one of their marketing consultants at Velcro and started communicating about getting some sample materials to test out on the brace. And here I have a little video to show you that it is in fact quieter.
We have standard mil-spec elastic side body with our standard mil-spec loop on this side. Same thing, you just pull it down, it releases and come up, slap it over. It's extremely strong in the shear. And if you need to cycle it as a standard to hook and close, you can pull it down, otherwise close it, pull down, and it releases quietly.
So as I was prototyping, I said building these physical models taught me several things about the materials I was using, and the main ones I mentioned earlier, having the pocket, having room for the fabric on the ends, and then lastly, one thing I forgot to mention was I tested out using adhesive Velcro, and that was not strong enough to fasten the brace tightly, so I ultimately decided the next prototype would need sew-on Velcro onto the fabric. And then in my second prototype, that's when I actually had my sample of the silent Velcro and I tested it out, but I hadn't done quite enough research into it and didn't realize it was unidirectional. So that was a big finding for my second prototype, which you can see here. I fastened it in the opposite direction, and when I was trying to lift it off, it was making a loud noise like normal Velcro does. It also requires pulling in the shear, like they said, so you have to make sure it's fastened tightly to the brace. You pull it in the correct direction and then lift it off to make sure it's silent. So I learned more about the silent Velcro product as I was experimenting with it. And then finally, in my third prototype, I decided to implement two of the loop Velcro pieces on this side so that it would have greater contact area with the silent Velcro to ensure that the brace could really get tight. So then moving into my final prototype, which you can see here, I've installed on the brace. I figured out how to sew with the sewing machine so that this version would be a little bit higher fidelity than the other versions. And one thing that I also incorporated onto this final prototype was using screw caps, which was the easiest way to prevent the screws from tearing into the fabric on Anna's shirts. So here I'll demonstrate before I show you the images, but you pull the Velcro in this direction and then lift it off. And it's much quieter. I have tested it comparing it to the other Velcro, and it's definitely a very large difference. You can hear this, but this version, you secure it very tightly, you pull it in one direction, and it's pretty silent. So it's very promising for the future of the Boston brace and helping users with this experience. I have a few more specs that I wanted to tell you about with this final prototype that I did. I decided to use elastic fabric for the white fabric because you need to make sure it can pull in the shear direction. And I also decided in this final prototype to sew with the sewing machine so that these Velcro pieces would stay on very tightly. So the main question at the end of this is, were the goals met? Were the initial goals that Anna had asked me to work on and basically said were her priority by showing me her sense of practicality in our interview? And I'd like to think that these goals were, just to remind you, it was to make the brace easier to adjust, and I've experimented with the pocket, the idea of pulling the elastic over and then out with the silent Velcro seems like it would be a natural action that one could do behind their back, but it would take Anna's testing this out to confirm that. So we need to ask Anna after this presentation and see what she thinks. And then also preventing the clothes from snagging on the brace. This is something that I think from working with the brace would likely be resolved, but again, we need Anna to test this by wearing the brace for her 23 hours and see what happens to her clothing, and also on a test cycle, so after a few days. And then also making the brace quieter, as I demonstrated earlier. It definitely is a lot more silent than the typical Velcro, so I think this could be a good application for the silent product that Velcro has been producing. And one last comment on the silent Velcro, it's only 10 cents per die cut piece, about like 1 to 2 inches in length. So it seems like a very reasonable solution that could be implemented onto the brace straps for the people that manufacture these braces. So I just wanted to show you my resources that I used for this presentation. I used the first 2 sites for information and learning more about scoliosis, and then the following ones for all my images that I incorporated. And lastly, a big thank you to Dave for offering this project and having me work on it this quarter and helping me through it. And to Anna and Kristen for letting me interview them and hear about their needs so that I could really design this product for the user. And then lastly to Will Taguier and the Velcro team for working with me and helping me through the challenges of learning about this silent Velcro technology and how to best implement it on the solution. Thank you.